At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
A very good afternoon to you. It is the 15th of May, the year 2023. Thank you for choosing us for Lunchtime News. I am Nissie, Imano, and Lucy Mora is our sign language interpreter this afternoon. Many thanks for joining us. Now, religious leaders from the Full Gospel Churches of Kenya have expressed their support for the proposal to have churches regulated in order to weed out rogue preachers. Speaking in Marsabit town when they led Christians from the Meru Full Gospel Church in issuing food donations to residents of Marsabit, they argued that there was a need for the government working in consultation with church leaders to ensure that churches are regulated in order to protect Kenyans from dangerous people who masquerade as preachers.
Alipeana the 10 commandments ili kuwe na regulations, na tuna encourage serikali ya Kenya ihakikishe kwamba pamoja na consultation ya makanisa kwamba kuna regulation ili kanisa uongozi ujulikane. Kila kanisa ijulikane inaanza wapi, inafundisha nini, kiongozi wao ni kina nani, na tuhakikisha kwamba tuna support serikali kwa njia zote, hata za kulipa kile tunapaswa kulipa kama kanisa kwa serikali ili services tupewe.
Kwa niaba ya kanisa letu la Full Gospel Church of Kenya ambalo hii ni mojawapo ya kanisa letu la region yetu, na kwa hivyo tungependa hata wale walio katika inchi, the whole entire nation, wangekuwa na upendo wa kufikia wale ambao wako na njaa.
Ile upendo wamelete ya msalaba kuja kueneza neno la Mungu, tunasema asanti, na pia wametukumbuka hata nasi tukiwa wakaaji wa Marsabit.
Moving on, police officers in Turkana County are undergoing a 2-day sensitization on gender-based violence and HIV/AIDS. According to the Rift Valley Police Commander, Tom Odiero, the exercise is timely for the police officers to build their capacity to deal with societal and health issues both personally and professionally. Odiero added that the sensitization campaign will be extended to all the counties in the Rift Valley region.
About wellness for us as the police service, of course, with other partners that we are here with. Mainly we have a focus on HIV, gender-based violence, We have issues of teenage pregnancies.
We've had a rise in new infections, HIV infections. We've also had a rise in HIV mortality. And this one informs us that we need to check on what we've not been able to do.
And the Kenya Platform for Climate Governance, in collaboration with the Pan-African Justice Alliance, has mobilized and amplified the voices of climate crisis to secure accountability for climate justice. They acknowledge the need to engage communities in locally led community actions to build resilience.
Speaking while at a workshop in Kerugoya, Kenya Platform for Climate Governance Chairman Njogu Barua elaborated the effects of climate change, which makes agriculture vulnerable, causing drought that has led to food insecurity in the country and globally.
The impact of climate in any part of the world affects every other part of the world. So the call here is, and that's the call of Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, is that every country, every county, every village must do whatever it takes to ensure that they participate in environmental conservation so that cumulatively we shall be able to address the menace.
Kirinyaga Deputy Governor David Githanda, on his part, emphasized on afforestation by selection of indigenous trees that attract rainfall, adding that the county government has planted over 8,500 trees in one area around Tibadam.
We found that there's a need for our county government to get in touch with these organizations, because there are about 50 of them represented here today, so that we can talk about climatic change and their role, how they assist, their role in assisting the county government in spreading this gospel to our people.
In November 2023, the United Nations shall hold the COP28 in Dubai towards framework on climate change. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Dozens of Kitengela Quarry stony traders in Kitengela are decrying low business prompted by the high cost of living that has affected the construction industry. Some of the traders lamented that their business is at its lowest, with some hardly making a sale in a day, while others have stocks of stone that has lasted for 2 weeks. The transporters have also complained about the high cost of maintaining their vehicles due to the deplorable state of Kitengela-Nkurunka Road, especially during the rainy season.
Kazi imekaa ngumu, makastoma hawakuji. Shida sisi ni customer. Customer ndiye akula, afu uchumi naye imerudi juu. Uchumi vile iko juu, sasa sisi upande wetu sasa inabidi sasa mpaka tujifinye.
Sasa tulikuwa chini, wateja wamepotea. Naomba sasa Mungu atusaidie. Tuendelee makasi at least tukue vizuri, tusomeshe watoto wetu. Denye tuko nayo ni barabara ni mbaya. Na tusumbua sana milima, mabonde, kuingia gari zinatoboka. Naleta shida sana.
Tuko na biashara ya mawe na ni pesa tunatafuta. Haya. Hizi gari pia siko na makanga, lakini makanga ndio yanatumika. Lakini yule mtu pato anapelekewa pesa, haoni kama hiyo ni kitu. Yaani kuenda kuachiwa kule halale. Hata hizi barabara za Nguluka zinabaa zifungo sote. Toka hivyo. Mtu atafute jingine ya kuenda.
Elsewhere, Thika Water and Sewerage Company, Thiwasco, has embarked on a mission to turn Kangoki wastewater treatment plant into a tourist attraction site. The company managing director, Moses Kenya, revealed that the 130-acre plant has been identified as a viable habitation for 6,000 species of birds from as far as Europe tour the plant every year, and that it will be ideal for bird watchers.
This area actually has been identified as one of the major bird habitation. The studies have shown that about 6,000 different species of birds visit this area every year. And with the tree planting, we shall make very good habitation for the birds, and tourists and others can come, and researchers for bird watching in this place. That's why we want to even increase the cover.
Switching gears to politics now, where President William Ruto has apologized for the negligence that led to the death of over 200 people in Shakahola, Kilifi County. Speaking in a joint media interview Sunday night, the president said upon the conclusion of the investigation by the Commission of Inquiry and the appointed task force, those found responsible will be held accountable. The president further defended the tax proposals contained in the Finance Bill 2023, saying the steps are necessary if Kenya is to climb itself out of the current financial hole.
In a joint media interview with 6 media organizations, including the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, President William Ruto apologized to Kenyans for what he termed as negligence by relevant authorities in Shakahola, Kilifi County in the undetected deaths and burial of over 200 people until it is too late.
Kuna utepetevu katika upande wetu wa serikali na inapaswa mimi niombe msamaha kwa sababu Wakenya 210 tayari wamepatikana katika makaburi. Tuko na shirika la upelelezi, tuko na shirika la ujasusi, tuko na askari polisi, tuko na assistant chief, tuko na wazee wa nyumba 10, tuko na wale wote ambao wako kule. Hapo kumetokea makosa.
The president further assured Kenyans that those found culpable will not go scot-free.
I am not taking it lightly. You know, I am taking responsibility that as president, this should not have happened. And certainly, some people who are responsible for this failure on the part of government will have to give an account.
Meanwhile, the president was put to task on increase of VAT on fuel, which is contrary to what he proposed during his campaign period, now saying the increase by 8% is to seal loopholes and provide more revenue for roads.
Number one, because having differential rates, one at 8%, others at 16%, poses a problem, an integrity problem. People use it as a loophole to manipulate numbers. This 8% that we are adding is going to give us about 50 billion shillings. Mm-hmm. It will begin to deal with the problem of roads across the country. Okay.
The president was further questioned on the 3% housing tax.
Ni kwa nini wanalazimishwa? Manake wengine wanaona ni kana kwamba wanalazimishwa, pengine hawako tayari kuwa wamiliki wa nyumba. Wengine wanasema ya kwamba hawakuhusishwa kabla ya yale mapendekezo.
Hii housing sio nyumba. Naona watu wengi wanasumbuka, sisi hatutaki nyumba bana. Mbona nani alikwambia tunahitaji nyumba? You know? Sio nyumba peke yake ndio tunatafuta kwa hii mpango. Ni kweli nyumba itapatikana, tuondoe wale wa Kenya 6.5 milioni wanaishi katika slums. Ni kweli. Lakini wacha tafadhali. Lakini ya muhimu zaidi ni kwamba kila nyumba tunayojenga tunapata ajira ya vijana wetu 5.
President Ruto further addressed the insecurity menace in North Rift, leading to the closure of schools, promising to rebuild more classes.
Pale katika North Rift tutaweka hema ya jeshi permanent. Pale katika North Rift tutaweka camp ya polisi permanent. Hawa magaidi na wakora na wezi wa ng'ombe tutapambana na wao, na mimi nataka niwaambie nikiketi kutoka hapa, kwa vyovyote, if it's going to take 10 years, if it's going to take 20 years, they better be ready, because this story of kids not going to school must come to an end.
Sophie Nairobi for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, delivery of essential services to citizens in public health facilities in Kilifi County is at stake as the shortage of nurses hits below 50%. Jessica Deche, head of the Family Health Services Department in Kilifi County, says nurses across the county are getting overwhelmed by the huge amount of work, leading to poor service delivery. She noted that the government has put up new health facilities but is yet to employ enough nurses to fill the demand.
If the county could work towards moving to at least above 50, would be better placed. Dispensaries are supposed to be run by 4 nurses. And what we are seeing today, we are only operating dispensaries with only 1 nurse, and if many, 2. Health centers, you're supposed to operationalize with at least 16 nurses. But you'd find there are facilities like Jibana Sub-County Hospital, whereby the nurses are only 8. And that is a sub-county hospital.
Na wahakikishia ya kwamba katika ile budget inayokuja ya mwaka ujao lazima tutahakikisha kile kiwango cha wauguzi kimeongezwa. Hivi hatuwezi kuwaridhisha tukasema tutawapatia kile kiwango wanachotaka. Wameniambia ndani ya Kilifi County wako kama hawajafikia hata 50%, ambayo inasikitisha.
And women in the country have been urged to unite against any form of gender-based violence and sexual harassment. Speaking during an interdenominational pilot program for widows organized by Evangelical Women Alliance of Kenya, Kericho County member of National Assembly Beatrice Kemei cautioned women against suffering in silence. She also urged them to instill moral values in their children so as to bring up a generation that respects women.
Against this, and I must say we have to stand as women and we speak against any form of gender-based violence and sexual harassment. And I want all of us to stand very strong. I'm also speaking to our youth to stand strong, to leave this form of evil, illicit brews, drugs, substance, and any form of immorality. We are losing young lives.
Even though the attempted coup of 1982 by low-ranked Kenya Air Force servicemen failed to overthrow President Daniel Arap Moi's government, the incident had far-reaching implications for the careers of Kenya Air Force military officers. The entire Kenya Air Force was disbanded, leaving hundreds of military personnel discharged from service. Captain Joseph Mbugwa was one of them. Here now is his story on Military Tales. Joseph Mwangi Mbugwa had already been trained by the East African community to join the East African Airways in 1975, when in a twist of events, he joined the military instead.
East African Airways or East African community had put an ad. They wanted to train pilots, ab initio pilots. So I applied. At the end of the interviews, 32 of us were selected to go to East African Civil Flying School, which was in Soroti, Uganda. It was while we were now doing ground school for the senior license, which is the Airline Transport Pilot's License, ATPL, that community broke up in 1977, and with it, East African Airways broke up.
That marked the end of the aviation training, but fate had other plans for Mbugwa.
Luckily, one of our instructors who came from Nairobi came to the school and told us that Kenya Air Force was holding interviews for pilots. So the Kenyans that were at East African Civil Flying School, we came to Nairobi and went for the interviews. I was among the ones that were selected in May 1977.
Mbugwa vividly recalls the events that unfolded early morning, the 1st of August, 1982.
I was in my room at the officers' mess when around 8 o'clock in the morning, somebody banged on my door. So I went out to check who it was and found a soldier. I can't remember his name, but a soldier with a rifle. Told me, "Captain, dress up and go to the crew room." I was escorted to the crew room. Said, "What is happening?" "We have taken over the government." I went back to my room, tuned the radio. So when I heard, here is chaos. In the crew room, The soldiers with the rifles were around outside. They let us do our own thing, so we did our briefing. We talked what is going on because none of us knew what was going on.
Mbugua and his crew had instructions to bomb specific targets.
Okay, of course they gave commands. They came and briefed us and told us, we want you to go and bomb State House, bomb Voice of Kenya, bomb even Nissie airbase operations. They wanted us to bomb. They were targets. They gave us some targets. But after they left, of course they left us to do our own thing. He said, we are not going to do any of that. But if they force us to fly, we will fly. So two of my colleagues, late Captain David Mutua, and late Captain John Mugwanja, they took off and they came and flew in Nairobi, did all kinds of those maneuvers that would look like they were bombing the places in Nairobi, and flew back to Nairobi. I flew back to Nanyuki. There was yet another one that did that. The second one, I think they had strapped rockets. They came to Nairobi. Of course, they didn't shoot any rockets in Nairobi. They went and dropped the rockets over Mount Kenya forest. Came back and landed. So my colleague and I, we didn't fly.
Unfortunately, Mbugua was among scores of military personnel arrested and sent to prison.
We looked out the outside of our crew room and we saw soldiers crawling in the grass. The army had come. We were gathered together somewhere in the field. They checked us. We were not armed. We ended up in the cells. We stayed there for about a week. Then we were taken back to Nanyuki, and we went through interrogations, individually. We were taken to Naivasha Maximum Prison, others to Kamete Maximum Prison. That was in August. Later on in December, I was moved to Naivasha Maximum Security Prison.
Mbugua was secluded from family and friends and seemed to have disappeared without a trace.
Our families were kept incommunicado. They had no idea where we were. They had stories that we were dead. My family had looked for my wife because they knew she was pregnant. And they didn't know whether I was dead or they thought I was dead anyway. At least they would be seeing one of their son's child.
After 7.5 months, in March of 1983, Mbugua was released from custody.
So on the 14th of March, 1983, we were put in a military bus or military lorry from Naivasha, brought to Kahawa Barracks, where they threw all kinds of odd shoes there, told us whatever can fit you, take. And we were given fare. Where are you from? Gatondo. 10 shillings. 10 shillings. Go home.
On the 1st of March 1985, Mbugua joined the Kenya Airways and was steadily promoted over the years, eventually becoming the captain of the prestigious Dreamliner that is known famously for flying 14 hours directly to New York.
From DC-9, I was promoted to Airbus A310-300. From that to captain on the Fokker 50. Captain Boeing 737-300, Captain Airbus A310-300, Captain Boeing 767, Captain Boeing 777, and last but not least, Captain Dreamliner Boeing 787-8.
Although Captain Joseph Mbugua's military career seemed to have been cut short by the attempted coup of 1982, he has had a successful 35 years in the aviation industry. Reporting for KBC from Nairobi County, I'm Nissie, Imano. Moving on, lawyers representing Pastor Ezekiel Odero now claim that there is an attempt to have him tried at the International Criminal Court. The lawyers allege that the state has gone further to link Ezekiel to controversial Malindi-based preacher Paul Mackenzie, in whose 800-acre farm is currently at the heart of an ongoing criminal investigation. The lawyers claim that Ezekiel is a target of religious jealousy and witch hunt.
Prayer Center and Church in Kilifi County. Faithful are gathered to hear the word. Some are here for healing. Like this elderly man whose family has sought divine intervention for his affliction. Many of the congregants are drawn from the area and the neighboring counties. Others have traveled from as far as Australia.
Pastor Ezekiel Odero is a true servant of God. He's an anointed man of God, sent by God for the whole world, not only for the East African people. So, and all I want to say is, let the government, individuals, pastors, the clergymen, everyone give our total support.
But the man of the moment is a besieged cleric. Ezekiel Odero is facing what his followers and lawyers describe as an evil propagated by the state and its jealous religious peers.
It is a religious witch hunt. It is political witch hunt. It is people who are planning on how they will take Pastor Ezekiel to be jailed in the ICC court.
For Ezekiel's followers like Dorcas Wanjala, the New Life Prayer Center and Church is a sanctuary, a place of healing.
Mimi nilikuja hapa na mama mzazi, alikuwa hajiwezi kabisa, alikuwa paralyzed. Kampuni 3 za magari silitukataa, sikisema hatuwezi tukabeba maiti. Lakini Mungu akatujalia tukapata gari moja. Tukafika Mombasa. Vile tulifika Mombasa, gari moja likajitokezea. Wakasema, mnaenda New Life? Tukasema ndio. Basi star yetu imerudi, mutapona.
Tumekuwa tumefuata Pastor Ezekiel for a long time. Na huko pia kuna makanisa, lakini ile kitu ako nayo hakuna huko.
Ezekiel Odero and his lawyers are accusing the state of scheming to drag him to the International Criminal Court.
We have seen people who have been in tents all their lives for years and they have been preaching to us. But do you see any impact? It's a question we need to ask, because we are being told about commissions and they are going to come round and going to regulate churches, but we are going to ask them, by which standards? Whose standards? Because if this church is not a standard, then there is no standard.
The lawyers allege that their client is the victim of a witch hunt emanating from his entrepreneurial exploits and the magnitude of his flock. For Lunchtime News, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
All right, and on the 15th of May, which is today, Kenya's Interior Cabinet Secretary, Professor Kithure Kindiki, and Somalia's Internal Security Minister, Mohammed Ali, have signed an outcome document that has been signed in efforts to ensure that the borderline of the two countries is secure. Take a look.
Communities in both countries have common cultural, religious, and socio-economic variables. The two governments are in agreement on the following. 1, the need to strengthen cross-border communication and information sharing. 2, the need to develop modalities of addressing cross-border challenges and acknowledge that many of the security threats faced by our two countries are transnational in nature and require coordinated and comprehensive response. 3, the need to pursue and develop collaboration mechanisms for immigration and border management. And 3, the need to enhance border infrastructure management and capacity. I affirm that the government of Kenya will continue to engage with the federal government of Somalia to develop and implement joint approaches and strategies cutting across socioeconomic and security issues in order to stabilize our respective countries and the region to allow socio-economic development of our respective countries.
By working together and leveraging our historical, linguistic, and bilateral ties between our two countries, citizens of both Somalia and Kenya can enjoy enhanced food security, improved infrastructure, increased exchange of goods and services, and overall sustainable, long-lasting peace.
Thank you.
And that story brings us to a very fast break on Lunchtime News. But don't go too far. On the other side of this break is business and sports.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hii ya kibeti, bonyeza *811*962#.
Haki umefanya vizuri sana kunifikia hii simu sasa. Nimekuwa na stress kutoka asubuhi kabisa. Na ni huyu mtu ambaye alikuwa anapatiana majina ya vitu. Kwani hakutufikiria sisi watu wa Eastern Ukambani? Ni nani alisema ati wife kwa Kiswahili ni mke? Na akasema ati handbaka. Hii inabebwa na mwanamke handbaka. Ati kwa Kiswahili ni kibeti. Huko kwetu mke ndiye kibeti.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya kibeti, bonyeza *811*962#. *811*962#.
Delight School of Fashion staged one amazing fashion show over the weekend dubbed Afrofusion.
I just want some little fun, little flex.
I am such a Nyashinsky fan, so when I keep saying Nyashinsky, just bear with me because he is the GOAT.
Every one of these artists delivered and gave their fans exactly what they came for.
This guy dropped one of the biggest, most anticipated album, dubbed Lion of Sudan.
Gari sasa mama, unajisumbua kuita madaktari hapa. Si mimi anabimaga na gilo goba hivi.
Hali yake inakwambia mambo yake inataka kuisha. Anataka kufanya nini? Kutuwacha.
Ukikubali tutafanya hii ya kutoa ile migi ya kudonate, hapo sasa tutaweka kwa fegi na hiyo ndio itasaidia watu wengine kama ni wako wagonjwa.
Kwa benki?
Kwa benki.
Central Bank ama National Bank. Wanahitaji wanitoe damu karai mbili. Wapeleke kwa benki iko chini ya bahari.
Mimi nataka tu unipime mimba. Halafu kama tafadhali unaweza kuniongezea nguvu za kiume, unaweza kunisaidia sana.
Kwa ingine hapa, mimi nakwambia hata si 24, hii inakufa in the next 30 minutes.
Welcome back. You are still watching Lunchtime News. Now, 2 people have died while 3 others are nursing serious injuries following a tragic road accident at Kipkaren Market along the Eldoret-Webuye Highway. According to witnesses, the driver of the trailer veered off the road and crashed into roadside vendors as he attempted to avoid a motorcyclist who was crossing the road. Several people were injured during the accident, prompting area residents to call for the relocation of roadside vendors for their safety.
Kuna kijana alitoka huko amepepa mzee, wamepepa na watu wawili. Alipotaka kucross barabara na lori kawa imekuja na lori ikajaribu kumhepa. Wakati lori ilikuwa inamhepa, angelikanyaka breki kidogo, hiyo lori ingepita. Lori ilikuwa sawa na yeye ile kitu ambapo alifanya, alisonga mbele na lori ikahepa na ikamkutana naye ikamgonga tu live katikati. Lori ilipotesha mwelekeo na ikaingia kwa wafanyabiashara kwa mkono wa kulia kwa sababu ilikuwa inatoka Eldoret inaelekea laini ya Uganda.
All right, and in business, you will pay more for fuel over the next 1 month following the increase of pump price following higher landed cost of super petrol and removal of subsidies on diesel and kerosene. The cost of super petrol is up 3 shillings and 40 cents. Diesel has increased by 6 shillings and 40 cents, while kerosene is up by 15 shillings and 19 cents.
Expectations that fuel prices would from this month reduce following a government-to-government deal between Kenya and the United Arab Emirates and a similar one with Saudi Arabia. The government-to-government deal was to facilitate fuel purchases using the Kenyan shilling as opposed to the previous open tender system regime where fuel was bought using dollars. In addition, Kenya was to pay for the fuel after 6 months. However, in the latest fuel review, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has revised up pump prices, noting that the landed prices of super petrol increased 8.63%, while diesel reduced to 2.51%, and kerosene was cheaper by 1.13%. In addition, the shilling appreciated 0.47% to the dollar. This, in addition to removal of subsidies on diesel and kerosene, has seen EPRA revising up pump prices. The retail cost of super petrol prices is up 3 shillings and 40 cents. Diesel has increased by 6 shillings and 40 cents, while kerosene is up by 15 shillings and 19 cents. This means fuel will be cheapest in Mombasa, where a litre of super petrol will retail at 179 shillings and 86 cents. Diesel at 165 shillings and 57 cents. Fuel is expensive in Mandera, where a litre of super petrol will retail at 195 shillings and 74 cents. Diesel at 181 shillings and 44 cents, while kerosene is retailing at 174 shillings and 16 cents. Hibak Said for Lunchtime News.
And plans are at an advanced stage to start direct flights between Kenya and Colombia in efforts to deepen trade between the two countries. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says Kenya will soon send a delegation to Colombia to benchmark on best practices of the coffee subsector, as the South American nation is the world's largest producer of Arabica coffee variety.
Is committed to further increase a two-way trade and investment cooperation between Kenya and Colombia by focusing on economic and commercial programs and promotion of business interactions between our two countries, ranging from MSME sector and private sector and business management organizations. Our political consultations have explored the need to establish direct flights between the two countries, which will be an enabler for trade and investment for people-to-people contact. His Excellency the President, in his Executive Order number 1 of 2023, bestowed upon me the responsibility to champion coffee reforms. I'll therefore be more than happy to visit your beautiful country to discuss matters coffee and to learn the beautiful experiences of the Colombian coffee farmer and be able to come and practice it here in Kenya.
At the peak of COVID-19 pandemic in the year 2020, Noah Karuri, then a student at Daystar University, saw the need to come up with a unique recreational activity for the local and international students who are quarantined on the university Athi River campus. This way, the Noah Distributors was born, a company that leases bikes to students and other users for hiking the Lukenya Hills. Take a look. Athi River, Machakos County. We find Noah at his business premises tending to a client. The entrepreneur is in the process of leasing out a bike. He then takes me down his entrepreneurial journey that started shortly after COVID hit the globe.
The idea came about when I joined Daystar in my second year. There were no other activities after classes which you can do around because there were no swimming pool. Then this tarmac road was being constructed. Then we had the hills. And with that, the resource, I came up with a biking idea to people they can ride the bike at the hills as they see the animals. We have giraffes, we have antelopes here. So I came up with the idea of come bike at Lukenya Hills.
In 2019 December, Noah went ahead and did a bike repair training and shortly afterwards bought 3 bikes to kickstart his business.
Actually, when I started doing business, my lecturer called Madam Celestine used to insist, meet the needs. That's why you get the idea. And that's how I started now thinking of how I can come up, I can meet the need of the students. So I don't just see any business around, then I want to do the same business. I try to find out, is this something that people need? Is this a gap in the market?
Noah has also ventured in biking events and competitions.
We're looking forward to the second edition of the Lukenya Hill Bike Challenge this end June. So I'm welcoming you all. Those people who feel they can cycle off-road at the mountain, karibuni sana.
Noah leases his bikes at what he terms as affordable prices.
So with 150 you can ride the bike for 1 hour. If you need a guide, if you are a new guest who is coming, you pay extra 150, so 300 for 1 hour. But for students, I normally charge them 150 for 1 hour.
He has also managed to add more bikes from the returns on his business.
I remember my first day when I started, I had 3 bikes. Right now we have 20 bikes. So that means the business is not doing bad, we are doing quite well. And we are trying to get more bikes because we are building more connections with the hotels, and the students are also increasing in number.
Occasionally, Noah would get clients that did not return his bikes.
I've had an instance where I lost 2 bikes, but from there I got my lessons, and I came up with various measures to curb that. So number 1, if you come to hire the bike, you must come with your either school ID or your national ID. Then I have to register you, have a book where I record you, your name, your phone number, and you sign in. Then number 3, I take a photo of you. And then I'm also working on how I can put trackers on the bikes.
Noah advises young people to not just look for white-collar jobs.
And look around, get the resources which are available, and start your own business. So that, because if you're patient, automatically it will grow. And be creative.
Noah is a practical example of a young man who saw a need and decided to meet it, and is now reaping great gains. Reporting from Athi River in Machakos County, I'm Nissie, Imano. Moving on. Imagine having your personal financial advisor available to you on a 24/7 basis, prompting and advising you on purchases and savings. This is exactly what a group of Kenyan innovators have brought to life. On this week's episode of Take One, Alan Aoko highlights how financial literacy innovation is fostering a savings culture.
The savings culture in Kenya remains very low at 13%, which is below Africa's average of 17%. This is primarily attributed to financial illiteracy.
A lot of people are not able to build a savings culture and invest their money. The other that bit that we found out was most people understand the value of savings, but there's a gap between the intention and the action.
So tell us, for a platform like yours in this digital space, a fintech, how can the government come in to, in legislation, in policy, how can they come in to help regulate, or what can they do to further help the platform grow in this sort of space?
The regulator in this space, that is Capital Markets Authority, has been very supportive. And we are working under their purview or under their license. Yeah, so on that end, yes, there has been immense support. The other bit that we see the government playing a bigger role is in terms of educating the masses about savings and investment.
By contrast, neighboring Uganda and Tanzania have already crossed the 20% mark, even though their per capita income is significantly lower than Kenya's. Perhaps Kenya's savior to accelerate savings lies in relying on technology to close the financial literacy gap.
That can only be done by embracing, modern day channels, things like Instagram, Facebook, where the youth are, but also using the mass media channels, such as TVs and radios.
Perhaps now Kenyans are curious as to how the platform works. Maybe you can show us how it works?
Yes, I'm more than happy to show you how it works.
Thank you very much.
Yes, let's go in.
This way?
Yes, this way.
Today, more than ever, financial education is a core life skill, as most households are living from paycheck to paycheck.
When you log into the app, what you see are all the goals you have created. And if you haven't created any goal, you can come to new goal and see any goal you can create.
Creators of applications like Chums say innovation effectively improves the ability to understand and apply different financial skills effectively, including personal financial management.
Most people call them chamas, but for us we are seeing it bigger than groups, because you can save with your spouse, two friends going for a vacation. And the whole idea behind that is we have also seen culturally, people save more when they save as groups.
Now, more than ever, a critical mass of informed citizenry is important, especially when it comes to financial inclusion and financial literacy. Alan Aoko, Take One.
Indeed. Thank you, Alan. The future is tech. Now, moving on, the government plans to lower the cost of living through a raft of tax proposals and the implementation of various policies. The leader of the majority in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, says the bill proposes to zero-rate maize flour and wheat to make the commodity accessible. Ichung'wah further says the bill exempts liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, to make it more affordable and reduce the usage of dirty fuels. The bill currently is going through public participation before tabling and debating in Parliament.
The finance bill has kicked up a major public storm after it was tabled in Parliament last month. The bill has been severely opposed by various stakeholders due to its plan to raise various taxes that may burden an already burdened taxpayer. Key among them is the proposal to double fuel taxes to 16% from the current 8%. The bill has also been opposed by employers and employees due to a proposal to introduce a 3% housing levy fund to finance affordable houses. Another proposal that has caused a public uproar is the attempt to impose a withholding tax of 15% on content creators. Critics have also opposed the planned increase of turnover tax from 1% to 3%, while dropping in more micro-businesses to the tax net by lowering the entry point to cover businesses with a turnover of 500,000 annually from the previous 1 million shillings. However, the leader of the majority in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, says the bill has been crafted with the public in mind. Ishungwa says the government plans to zero-rate LPG to lower the cost of the commodity and make it more affordable to Kenyans. The leader of the majority further says the bill seeks to revise the import declaration fee from 3.5 to 2.5% to stimulate local manufacturing by reducing the cost of inputs imported into the country. The railway development levy will also be lowered from 3.5% to 2.5% in a move to boost local manufacturing. The bill is expected to be tabled in Parliament for debate in the second week of June this year. Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
And in sports, Kenya Ports Authority men's volleyball team lost their second match by 3 sets to 2 to draw of Algeria at the ongoing 2023 Africa Men's Volleyball Club Championship in Tunisia. KPA won the first and second set 25-23 and 31-29 respectively. The Algeria outfit came back stronger in the third and fourth sets, winning 26-24 and 25-14 to send the match into the fifth set, which they bagged 15-10. KPA humbled Cameroon's CSV by 3 sets to 1 in their opening match. The Dockers are Kenya's sole representatives after reigning Kenyan Championships. GSU pulled out due to financial constraints. KPA finished 5th overall in the last edition of the Africa Men's Volleyball Club Championship held last year in Kelibia, Tunisia. And in rugby, the Kenyan national rugby sevens team Shujaa finished in position 13 at the Toulouse leg in this season's Sevens World Series, which ended Sunday. Shujaa only managed 2 wins in Toulouse against USA in the 13th place semi-final and against Japan in the final. The final leg of the season is set for next weekend in London.
Losing to Uruguay, New Zealand and Canada in Pool A matches in Toulouse, Kenya's Shujaa fell to the 9th place quarter-final where they suffered yet another defeat, 17-10 to Samoa, going further down to the 13th place semi-final. Shujaa faced United States and produced their best performance of the season to win 19-0.
I reckon that's the best of the lot.
Daniel Tabu, Nelson Oyo and Edmund Anya were the 3 try scorers for Shujaa as they booked a place against Japan in the 13th place final.
Forget about half Nelson. This is the full Nelson. Under the posts. Nelson, oh you. Oh yeah.
Kenya were once again dominant against Japan to win 33-12 as they finished in position 13, heading into the final leg of the season to be played in London.
And leaving Japan trailing in his big red Kenyan wake.
3/4 of the pitch there, straight up, looking at determination, pumping those legs.
The Kenya Sevens will
FC Leopards recorded their first win over Gor Mahia since 2016 after beating them 2-1 in a Kenya Premier League match played last Saturday at the Nyayo Stadium. Victor Omune gave the Leopards the lead in the 34th minute from the penalty spot after Maxwell Otieno was fouled in the box. Their lead, however, lasted for 5 minutes only, with Gor Mahia scoring the equalizer. AFC Leopards were back in the lead again, Otieno nodding the second and the winner in the 44th minute. AFC Leopards have now moved up to 7th spot on the table, while Keogalo are still second, 1 point behind leaders Tusker. In other results, Nzoia Sugar overcame Kakamega Homeboys 2-0, Kenya Police downed Mathare United 1-0, while Nairobi City Stars drew 1-1 with Bandari.
I told my players before the game that the pressure was on them, and the penalty is the proof. The pressure was on them, so we played relaxed, and yes, we got 3 points.
Kenya's Eric Demon finished 7th at the Ligue 1 Tour tournament that was held in Paris, France. Demon, a KCA University student, registered a mixed bag of results at the global event, winning only 1 out of 6 matches he played. Demon had picked up a 2-2 draw against champs from Morocco, then beat Yagi of USA 4-2 before drawing 3-3 against Tunims from Saudi Arabia, placing him second on the 5 points after the first round. But tables stand in the second round after he lost 3-0 to Senegal's Dex Jr., then 3-1 to Dudus from Brazil. In his decider match against Romy from Ivory Coast, Demon was set to book a top 4 berth and qualify for the semis with a tie at 1-1 with only 2 minutes to go. However, a glitch saw Demon succeed in the dying minutes. The tournament was won by Dex Jr. of Senegal, who pocketed 514,500, while Demon was awarded Kenya shillings 55,000. Barcelona sealed their first La Liga title since 2018-2019 season with 4 games to spare after a 4-2 win at the home of city rivals Espanyol. In Italy, Juventus beat Cremonese 2-0 to remain second at the Serie A table.